Okay, do you guys have audio now? This is the, I swear it's, we haven't had this problem. Okay, let me check. Yeah, okay, they have audio now. Now let me plug it in. Okay, you hear me? Now let me try this again. We tried doing a dual setup. Phillip brought his microphone, you guys, so we could try to do both of them. So let me get mine plugged in real fast.
Yeah, it's a unit. That's a pity. But I guess that mic is good enough that I can just forge ahead.
Yeah, we have a little handheld one, so Andrew will be able to hold it right near you, and you'll be super clear anyway.
Right, no worries.
It'll be fun. We've managed to just about pull it off.
Well, as I say, I mean, it's back in the day, it would have been a huge setup, satellite dish and all the rest of it. So the fact that we can do it with a phone, a couple of consumer mics, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's better for now, but it'll be even better in a second, you guys. 1 minute. Okay. Audio check. Audio check. Perfect, we're good. Cool. All right, and we'll just do the old-fashioned handing it off like a talking stick, like we've been doing. All right, welcome back to another morning of Good Morning Kyiv. I'm Andy Mercado. This is my special guest, obviously Alex, my co-host, special guest Phillip Itner, and then Operator Starsky, who's going to be here, provide us some amazing updates today. But before we get to Operator Starsky, let's go to Phillip. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, I'm Phil Itner. I'm a veteran broadcast journalist with 25 plus years in the business. CBS, Al Jazeera, Sky News for the Brits. For my sins, occasionally, well, not occasionally, but for a while there, Fox News. Thank God they fired me. Best day of my life. And I've been coming to this region for 22 years. Well, I was based in Moscow in the 90s, so I saw the demise of the Yeltsin era, the rise of the Putin era. We can talk about that. We should have seen this coming. The guy's a thug. But I've been coming particularly to Ukraine for 22 years. I was on Maidan in 14, and Maidan changed my life. I was a quick story about Maidan, not my bio, but explains why I'm here. Is I was on Maidan, and if anybody tells you it was orchestrated by external forces, they're talking bullshit. I can swear, right?
Oh yeah, of course.
They're talking bullshit. It was homegrown. I'd been on Maidan for a while, and a friend of mine flew in, and he was a cameraman for ABC.
Yep.
And I said, hey, buddy, I'll take you down to Maidan. I'll show you around the different, camps and stuff like that. And so I did. This is my buddy Derek, who's a Polish cameraman. And we went around. We talked to the Georgians who were there, the Canadians who were there, the Europeans, private sector, everybody with all the elements that made up Maidan. And we were walking back, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. And these two old women came out of the shadows, and they approached us, and they said, are you foreign journalists? And we said yes, and they immediately fell into tears, wailing and crying and saying, and I get emotional every time I tell this story, wailing and crying as only babushka, as you will know, Starsky, can do. I mean, they're the backbone of this society in many ways. And they're crying, and they're pulling at their clothes, and they're saying, "Nie zabывайте у нас. Nie забывайте у нас," which is basically, don't forget about us. Because they knew their history. The history of this land is tragic in the way that it's been played with greater powers. It's deeply tragic and blood-soaked. So these old women are sitting there crying, saying, don't forget about us, because they knew what was going to happen. Anyhow, we're all crying at this point, and I say, Yabashayo, I promise. So I made a promise to these two old women, and I can still see them if I close my eyes. I made a promise to them, and in a lot of ways I felt like I wasn't making a promise to them. I was making a promise to Ukraine, because as I say, the babushka is the backbone in many ways of the society. And so I wasn't just not just these two old women, I was making a promise to Ukraine. And we were walking away, and I said, what the fuck was that? What did we just, go through?
Yeah.
And my buddy Derek turns to me, he goes, how old do you think they were? And I was like, I don't know, late 70s, early 80s, something like that. And he said, think about what their lives have been like. Think about what they've lived through. And I just went, oh shit. So I'm obligated. I made a promise, and I'm sticking it out. So when the full-scale invasion happened, there was no hesitation for me. I came over, got here as quick as I could, and I've been here ever since, and I'm staying until there's victory. And it's because I pledged myself to this country, because it's an amazing country, and it deserves its sovereignty and its liberty. It's long overdue.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that little background. And then, real quick, just in case there's a viewer out there that has no idea who you are, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then provide a little update about what happened in the last few hours, if you could.
Thank you, bro. My name is Andrew Coolish, but most people know me as Operator Starsky, brass officer for the National Guard, 4th Operative Brigade. So yesterday there were some massive shellings of Kherson, Kharkiv, sorry. Kharkiv was hit several times in the night, then during the day by Russian S-300 missiles. And also until the late evening, we were noticing big presence of Russian aviation in the area, specifically around the southern Ukraine. Russians were using Mohajer drones. Those are Iranian drones used to conduct strikes using missiles, but also they're used to coordinate their Shahed drones. So there's one Mohajer drone flying, observing the area, searching for targets, and then this drone coordinates the swarms of Shahed drones. And we know also that Dnipro, Zaporizhia, and Kherson were hit multiple times during the day. But in the night, all this was resolved with the Crimean bridge that was hit twice. And so what we know as of this moment, currently we know that one of the pillars completely collapsed, another pillar is damaged. Obviously it will not be used in the nearest future. We are talking about the automobile part of the bridge, the one that is used by the cars. Unfortunately, we know that the railway is still running. We know that, temporarily, I believe,
Not enough to support Crimea, though.
Absolutely. Russians also report they organized the emergency coordination center. They also call all the Russian citizens to get to and from Crimea using land. And we also know that at this point, ferries, the ferry connection between the Russia and occupied Crimea, they don't work. So that's the update.
Oh yeah, and Philip, what can you tell us about your knowledge of Crimea and the connection with the bridge to?
Okay, so a lot of this war is about Crimea. It's about their Black Sea fleet and Sevastopol. Russia has always envisioned itself as a major naval power ever since Peter the Great. It's been one of their great geopolitical strategic interests. One of the things I can tell you about the Kerch Bridge that isn't widely known is, and I learned this personally about, I won't say exactly when, but about 4 or 5 years ago, I, in one of my many visits to Kyiv, met with the U.S. military attaché. and had lunch and a couple of beers, and we were talking about everything. And he told me that that we had sent down a SEAL team, that America had deployed a SEAL team to go inspect the pylons, the foundation of the Kerch Bridge. The report that the SEALs came back with, and keeping in mind, this is like 5 years ago, that bridge is falling into the sea.
And that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, that bridge is falling into the sea. Inevitably, it's because it's the Kerch Strait between Russia and the Germans during World War II tried to do this, and they couldn't do it either. It's all silt and tectonic plates, and it's almost, with the current technology, almost impossible to build a bridge across that place.
Damn.
That's going to stand the test of time, right? So the SEALs came back and they reported, and if they told the Pentagon, you better bet the Russians know this as well, it's an inevitability. The thing is going to fall in the sea. So I think part of this war is because recognizing that you need a land bridge to support Crimea. It's kind of a domino effect. In order to be a world naval power, you have to have Sevastopol. This is in their mind. You have to have Sevastopol. In order to have Sevastopol, you have to have Crimea. Crimea can't be supported because it doesn't have any fresh water. It needs support from the land bridge, from the reservoir down there. Or being able to go along the Sea of Azov and get to the peninsula. So they know very well that bridge is ultimately not going to solve their problem, and it's it's just going to be a catastrophe after catastrophe for Russia under Putin's reign. And I don't see how a Russian leader who loses everything that Catherine the Great, a contemporary of George Washington, right? This is that time period. So everything that we are as Americans, where we base our sense of identity and self with our founding fathers, there's a lot of commonality with what Russia has, with what Catherine took and became empire. Their sense of empire really was established under Catherine. And Putin's going to lose everything that Catherine built. And I can't see him surviving that. So this is an existential threat on both sides of the conflict. But you asked me about the Kerch Bridge, and I gave you a history lesson.
Yeah,
so
it's okay. That works perfect. There's more information
but
than
that bridge is bullshit. That bridge is a farce.
Now, what can you tell us about? Yeah, go ahead, Starsky.
So from what I remember, back in 40s, when Crimea was occupied by Nazi Germans, they also considered building a bridge. They made assessment of that area, and they concluded that the bridge cannot exist there.
Ooh.
And Nazi Germans did that 80 years ago.
Wow.
So they assessed, they came to conclusion that you cannot build bridge on a silt. Also, there's a movement of tectonic plates in that area, something like that, because the Crimea, the piece of land that is called Crimea, and piece of land that is called Russia, they're located on absolutely different, absolutely different pieces of earth that, not connected. They constantly move. The Crimean Peninsula moves approximately 2 centimeters further, like every year. So all that area is in constant movement. That's why bridge cannot exist there, and if anything is built there, it will not last long.
We're seeing that even if it's coming a little from the Ukrainian artillery and HIMARS coming in, but it's likely going to collapse. What can you tell us about how important that bridge is to Putin, from your experience?
Well, I mean, I think it's important because in the short term, it will allow them to get soldiers in, to get, some light armor, they can in the immediate term supply the peninsula for their war effort. But ultimately, as I say, it's going to fall apart. So hitting the bridge is right now. I mean, we can't wait 5 years for it to fall into the sea, which it inevitably will. We need to take it out now. So they're doing, and also because it was a very visible personal project for Putin. I mean, he was the first one to drive across it. He's made it this propaganda thing. So it's another chink in his armor of this like great leader of Russia who is, you know, altering and bringing Russia into this great new, you know, make Russia great again.
Yeah, that's what I
kind of bullshit. You know, yeah, and so to take it out in many ways is an attack on him. Now, I still contend that Putin is living on borrowed time. I think there's a lot of evidence to that. The Prigozhin uprising, all the dysfunction in Moscow, it's all bubbling beneath the surface. But taking out the Kerch Bridge will and damaging the Kerch Bridge, just the sheer fact that there's a smoke plume. I mean, Starsky showed me the pictures from what's happening down there right now. That this big white, you know, the white massive smoke coming off the bridge. It's that. Obviously, I can't play them. Yeah, so here you go. That's gonna hurt Putin real bad, because part of the arrangement that Putin, and again, I was in Moscow at the rise of Putin. Part of the agreement that Putin made with the Russian people was, I'm going to take you away from the instability of the 90s. And what's a greater example of our country's in complete disarray than shit's blowing up? So, you know, he's not gonna survive this war. I'm convinced of that. But oh yeah, that's great stuff. Isn't that beautiful?
What did you give to Alex for his take on the situation?
I think. Well, I think, you know, one thing that we've definitely got out of this is a live travel section, haven't we? And traffic, and we can certainly confirm that in Kyiv this morning we're still standing. We haven't been bombed, and traffic's flowing nicely. But the Crimea region is, in one word, slightly fucked right now, and rightly so. We've had a couple of funny comments in here as well of people recommending maybe it's now the Kerch Pier. Yeah, which I quite like, and soon it will be the Kerch pile of rubble sitting in the river, either because of storm shadows or because, from the basis of what you guys have said, it's built on silt, which is a fairly epic engineering fail.
It's going to be a coral reef before too long.
I mean, I actually. Once upon a time ago, I worked in the oil and gas industry, going back to your comment of how engineering and is of real pride to Russians, right? And that always was the thing that they were very, very interestingly sort of wanted to show off, was like their big gas engineering facilities, or look at this big thing that we built, aren't we special? So I could totally agree, Philip, that...
But in addition to that, if I can just interject, is also that they have this massive problem with corruption. So everybody's skimming off the top. All those big engineering projects, somebody's lining their pockets, and I'm sure it happened with the Kerch Bridge as well.
Absolutely, it's not actually a concrete mix that they've put into those pillars. It's some sort of modified porridge with a concrete hairspray on top of it or something like that. So, you know, we look forward to seeing that thing continuing to drop into the ocean over the coming days, because importantly, as Starsky said, it's got the road bridge, which does have military supply going down it, but if they can knock out the railway element as well, then that does have a material difference to the resupply of the Russian forces fighting in that part of the front. So we need to see the rest of it get taken out over the next few days. Andrew, you have had some compliments for your T-shirt, and your audience is very pleased to see your legs out this morning.
Oh yeah. I needed to breathe a little bit, and it says Kyiv, city with balls. And so I figured that this was an amazing shirt to get. We went and got a few of them yesterday, so I'll be wearing some designer clothes. So any other comments, Starsky, about Crimea and what you know about the past and how much Putin loves that bridge and how much he cares about Crimea?
So the only reason he built that bridge was, obviously, as Philip said, it was a temporary bridge before the land bridge. Before the land bridge emerged between Russia and Crimea. And I'm checking information to see if that video was old, although we have several photos showing what looks like... Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah, okay,
yeah. There's some of my home video in the gallery, so be careful, please.
I'll just show the first two. You don't want to swipe right too far.
Yeah, so we can see that one section of the bridge is completely effed up, and it will not be used. Again, the most crucial part of the bridge, though, is the railway. Because railway is traditionally used in Russia to deliver all their crap, their tanks, their fuel, their personnel. Maybe in the future, maybe in the upcoming days, we will see the railway destroyed as well, because we would really like to see that.
Go ahead, Philip.
I think we also have to talk a little bit about Crimea and and Crimea itself, as I've talked about in importance militarily, but there's also a sense of identity that the Russians tie to Crimea and to the Black Sea, and so, you know, I mean, like, I know Russians. When I lived in Russia, I still have Russian friends. I don't talk to them very much anymore because we have a major difference of opinion.
Are they hard to have a conversation with?
Yeah, I mean, sadly, because they're deluded. They've bought, you know, all the years of propaganda that Putin has shoved down their throats. They actually believe some of the ideas of this great Russian Empire, and we deserve to have these lands that we're taking, and it's our right to subjugate all these other people. But they also, a lot of these people, my friends included, have dachas or summer homes in Crimea. They really legitimately think that Ukraine is just a little Russia. So pat on your head and be a good little Slavic, you know. And it's the arrogance of the Russians that gets me really frustrated. They have literally looked me in the eyes and said, "Oh, during the Soviet Union, everybody, we all got along. We all loved one." You go and talk to a Georgian, go and talk to an Estonian, talk to a Ukrainian. They'll tell you, you know, fuck that. So their sense of ownership of Crimea is a really strong part of their identity. And when they lose it, it's going to be tough for them to swallow. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Screw you. I'm actually hoping in many ways that losing this war, which is going to be an inevitability, they're going to lose this war. But I'm hoping that when they lose this war, that they will finally look in the mirror and do the hard work that they know in their heart of hearts they have to do. They need to change. They knew it in 17, they knew it in 91. They keep kicking the ball.
Yeah,
they keep kicking the can down the road, but in their heart of hearts they know it. And so I'm hoping, because Crimea and the Black Sea is such an integral part of this sense of empire for the Russians, that when they lose it, which they will, that they finally, they finally do the reconstructive work that they need to do. There's an illness in Russia, and it's not, Putin is a symptom of the illness, but the illness goes back centuries. And maybe they need to get a kick in the crotch, to finally get their shit together. So I think Crimea is really a big deal for them.
And then same to you, Starsky. What can you speak about, like, the Russian people and their opinion? If you had any Russian friends, or if you spoke to any Russians and their opinion on the importance of Crimea, or like Philip just talked about.
I have several stories to tell, actually.
I would assume so.
In 2014, I knew a guy from Crimea. We were both in Poland. I was receiving my treatment, and he worked as a construction builder. And he told me that he supported Revolution of Dignity that only ended that year. He was there, he was with us, and things like that. And he told me that his mom was still there in Crimea. And in my opinion, it was a legit, decent dude. Then we were talking about something, and he said, "My mom's gonna receive a Russian passport soon." I'm like, what? And he was like, "Because we're Russians." I'm like, whoa, what? He's like, "Yeah, we're against Putin, but we're Russians."
Oh, no.
I'm like, do those two things even combine in your head?
Yeah.
So they have this tremendous soup in their heads because of all those decades of propaganda.
Centuries.
Yeah. So currently we know that Atesh, that is a partisan movement that consists mainly of Crimean Tatars. I have a lot of friends among them. They gave me the Crimean Tatar flag in 2015, I guess, and I promised that I will bring this flag back to Crimea. What else? I have several like Russian friends. One of them is Ilya Bogdanov. If you saw this first invasion of Russians in Russia, and you saw that bearded guy on a BTR, on the one that was snatched from the Russian border guards, and then destroying that border guard point. So that's the dude. Actually, he has a restaurant here in Kyiv. He was Piance on Podil.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's Oriental cuisine. So he was an FSB guy. In 2014, he switched sides. He joined the Ukrainian defenders, and he was fighting against Russian invaders in Donetsk airport, which was one of the craziest spots here in this war. That dude is legit. So another one is somewhere in freaking Vladivostok. When this war big war started, that very morning when the first cruise missiles hit Kyiv, I was on my way to Hostomel before the battle happened, and he messaged me on Facebook and he said, like, dude, I'm so freaking sorry about all this shit. And I'm like, don't worry, but of course you owe me a lot of beer, and he said it's not even a question. My only hope is that this huge shit pile called Russia collapses. And he is legit. There is one Russian in the US that I know. He is a dentist and he has massive channel, I think about 1 million subs or something like that. So when he was a kid, he moved to the US and together with his parents, and he supports Ukraine. He is donating a lot of funds to support our effort. So there are nice guys, but what makes nice Russians different from all other Russians is that they're doing something to help Ukraine. There is this so-called democratic liberal opposition in Russia that is located somewhere in Europe, out there, and what they do is they all receive benefits for having political asylum in the European countries. They do different interviews, but I saw this interview of my God, I don't remember the channel. Their bearded speaker, he was like, because Putin is a tactical man, he's very good at tactics.
The master strategist.
Yeah, master tactician. We have to repeat constantly. We have to repeat constantly. Free Navalny. Free Navalny. And when the time comes, he will free Navalny. I'm like, holy shit! Are you freaking oh, so yeah, and that Max Katz, I believe, Max Katz, yeah, their oppositioner, the young one. Yeah. Again, people like him, they don't root for, let's say, free Ukraine. They root against Putin because Russian oppositioners that dream of returning home, they realize that if Putin collapses, right, if his regime collapses and they take over and they become the ruling party of Russia, they will still have to pay reparations, guys, because European countries as well as the US, they stated that sanctions will not be lifted until Russia pays reparation to Ukraine. And absolutely. And they realize that they will still have to do that. To them, Ukraine is enemy regardless. We are enemy state to them. So that's what I can say about Russians.
And now, Philip, you spent time in Russia. You got history and knowledge of it, Navalny and everything. Why don't you just go ahead and cook for a bit?
I know you guys, you being former military and all the rest of it. This is actually part of why I came over here. I wanted to let other guys do the kind of military stuff. I've covered wars for 25 years. Let other guys do the military stuff. Let me give you some depth and some context and all the rest of it. So let's talk a little bit about Navalny and those types. The problem is it's still integral to their sense of self, their identity, of who they are as Russians, because Russia is empire, and their sense of empire is so deeply ingrained in them that even guys like Navalny are still, seeing that this is their great imperial Russia. Their place on the globe is tied in, integrally tied into their sense of empire.
God-given type?
It's just, well, they have this thing called the Ruskaya Dusha, the Russian soul, which is bullshit. Go fuck yourself with your Ruskaya Dusha bullshit. It's an excuse. So the Ruskaya Dusha is this thing that they tell, every child is taught at a very early age, you're not like everybody else. You have a special Russian soul. It's you can't expect things like democracy or the rule of law or a strong middle class, or don't expect that. You're born to suffer. You have the beautiful Ruskaya Dusha. It's crap. It's all bullshit, and it's a way for the ruling class to subjugate the masses of Russia. Okay, so that needs to be wrested out of their head, and it's going to take a long time to do it. It's why I think this war is so existential to them, because this puts paid the idea of Russian empire. Ukraine is the cornerstone of their empire. It's as I say, what Catherine took, it's kind of what built their sense of empire. So for them to lose it means they're going to lose this very integral part of their identity, which is empire. And there's one other thing that I'm going to say about. Oh, is that Kerch?
Yeah, you can
beautiful,
he's showing
fantastic, fantastic.
Oh, that is a problem.
Hoorah!
Pictures.
Hoorah!
Yeah.
I want to get this in because I oftentimes.
You send me those so I can post them.
I've made the analogy, and some of my Ukrainian friends don't like this analogy because I phrase it as a marriage between Ukraine and Russia. A marriage, by the way, that Ukraine didn't agree to, but was forced upon them. And it's been an abusive marriage, with one alcoholic, belligerent partner and the other one being the subject of that abusive activity. And now the abused spouse, Ukrainian friends don't like it when I do the male, female, wife, husband thing, so I'm just going to stick with spouse. Anyhow, the spouse who's been abused for centuries has finally said enough. She's, the spouse he or she has tried to leave 2 or 3 times in the past, and every time has been beaten back. And so now the bags are packed, out the door, and Russia, being like an abusive spouse, as abusive spouses often can be, I'm going to teach you how to love me again. You're going to love me. And they don't understand that once that started, once you laid hands on the spouse who wants to leave of its own volition, that relationship is spoiled forever. There will never be. I have a Ukrainian poetess friend of mine who on Maidan wrote a poem that infuriated the Russians. And it was a poem, and I won't give it to you in the original Russian. It's basically, we're never going to be brothers again. You've broken this contract, this relationship that we've had. And it's been an abusive relationship. And we're never going to be together again. You've broken so, when you talk about like Russia, when the tankies talk about Russia's, I know. when they talk about like Russia's right to like have their strategic depth and all the rest of it, you're removing people's sense of self-determination, of agency, just for Russia's sense of security. And I say, fuck that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not okay. I mean, in order to get their strategic depth, they have to basically occupy lands that are equal to Russia's population in total. So, all of this stuff that Starsky was talking about, this stuff that's deeply ingrained in them and who they are and how they see themselves, all of this is in crisis right now. Because the Ukrainians have finally said, we don't want to live like you, man.
Yeah.
We're Europeans. We don't have the schizophrenia of Russia, where they are we European? Are we Asian? Are we something different? Are we this special Ruskaya Dusha that allows us to, do all the... And there's always has been, and I don't see any change in it, this vertical power structure that the Ukrainians are rejecting as well. They want a strong middle class. They want to have reform within their legal systems. There's a lot of trauma here that needs to be worked through. Yes, this country is it's got problems, real serious problems, because this country's gone through a lot. This place is soaked in blood, and every single family has a story of one of their family members who died in this war or that war or the Holodomor. There's trauma here, but at least the Ukrainians, unlike the Russians, are trying to address it and change.
Yes.
In Russia, if you have generational trauma, shut up, here's a bottle of vodka. And Ukraine doesn't want to be like that. So anyhow, I get on a soapbox.
No,
I
perfect.
apologize,
That's
but
what
I mean, it's
this
just
is for.
I love this country so much. It's when I first came here. I came here for the visit of Pope John Paul II. That tells you how old I am. And when I first came here, my Russian colleagues at CBS, I was working out of the CBS News Bureau in Moscow. They said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to go to Ukraine for the visit of Pope John Paul." And they said, "Where?" And I said, "Ukraine." What is that? I mean, this was their arrogance and their joke. Ukraine's not a country. It's a land maybe, but it's not a country. Very dismissive. Anyhow, I came down here, I got out of the train, and within minutes was like, I can breathe again. This is a European country. This is, people interact with one another, not, with this kind of power dynamic, which there's always, everything is a power struggle in Russia. Every relationship is zero sum. Somebody wins, somebody loses. And that's completely different here. This is a European country that doesn't have that baggage of empire, doesn't have the baggage of, are we east or are we west, what are we, and it's long overdue that they're out from under the thumb of a bunch of thugs in Moscow who have all this baggage. So anyhow, that's why I come here. That's why I'm doing what I do, because this country deserves its freedom, and it's a lovely place. When the war's over, come visit.
It's lovely currently, in my opinion, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been here. Very resilient. Now, what was that term called at the childhood level?
Ruskaya Dusha, the Russian soul.
What can you say about that, Starsky?
Oh yeah.
I can talk a lot about it. Last year in spring, I made a video dedicated to the Russian world. In Russian language, it's called Ruski Mir, and the word Mir has two meanings. It can be like Russian peace or the Russian world. And this, let's say, not like philosophy, it's rather like fascist ideology used by Putin and Dugin and people like them. John Sweeney talked about Dugin. It's based on several foundations. One of them is Ruskaya Dusha, which is this Russian way, this special Russian way, connection to nature, connection to bears and pigs, connection to cosmos and shit like that, being Orthodox Russian Church, Russian sportsman, the strongest sportsman, and it's massive propaganda. What I remember though, which tells how old I am, is back in the 90s on the Russian television there was a show called Battle of Gladiators. or something like that. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Again, it was copy pasted from the American WWE. But what they had there, and I was watching that because back then we all watched Russian television. We had like half of Russian channels available in Ukraine. So there were like gladiators, like Russian men, like bodybuilders and all those stuff, man, like Hulk Hogan, only Russians and stupid. And there were different people, mostly from Russia, the UK, and the US. And I was like, I was impressed to see Americans on a TV. I'm like, whoa, especially in Russia.
Right.
So for some and I just realized it like this morning while drinking coffee and watching at my freshly done plumbing. For some reason, Americans would always lose.
They always lost in the show, huh?
Yeah, like they were big.
Yeah.
Because like Americans usually they're big people, they're big guys, and they were they were always losing, like to the Russian gladiators. One of those gladiators, nicknamed Dynamite, he was later he became a star in Russian TV show Spetsnaz, about those angry Russian men fighting Chechen terrorists and stuff, and they just kill everybody with knives and contactless combat and shit like that. So Dynamite was among them, and it was it's when their propaganda in their movies started to to grow and expand. They made a lot of movies about their Spetsnaz. Again, those Chechen terrorists, of course, they were like funded by all kinds of Soros guys, America, rotting West, but the Spetsnaz with this Ruskaya Dusha, with this special mindset and connection to cosmos, of course, they were like, huh. So I just realized that back in the 90s, they already had that shit. And if you check out like all those foundations like religion, sportsman, army, special soul, special mindset, that's basically foundations of fascism. You can read all that in the doctrine of fascism. External, yeah, of course. External enemy, of course, it has to be there, because you cannot have a strong army, you cannot have good rating as a politician if there's no external enemy that you have to fight. And basically it's based on the doctrine of fascism of Benito Mussolini combined with Hitler's Mein Kampf, only like it's like a Russian way.
And you had mentioned that quick, and before I hand it to you, yeah, he had mentioned George Soros, and I just want to put an opinion. You've been in this a lot. How often have you been accused of George Soros actor? Bro, I turned 30 this year, and the first time I stepped out to cover current events, I was immediately a George Soros actor.
Oh, of course.
All right, so anyways.
But look, their propaganda is insidious, and it's they know exactly how to get at us. They know the pressure points. They know the friction between, communities, and they'll apply it, and they never stopped. They've never stopped interfering in America because they see us as their primary enemy. They're obsessed with America. So in the State Department and in the Pentagon, we have different desks. For every region, practically every country, if not every country, war gaming and playing out scenarios and all the rest of it, because there's a bigger picture when Americans come to their view of the world and the State Department, Pentagon, all the rest of it. Anyhow, Russia is almost exclusively fixated on the American Anglo alliance and attacking Americans and Brits. And they're absolutely fixated on it, and they run this narrative of one, Americans and the Westerners are naive. They believe in this thing called the rule of law, but they're hypocrites because the rule of law is often found to be faulty.
Yeah.
We get upset when we see our judicial system not working, or our legal system, or our democracy not working. When it's failing, we get upset.
Yeah.
The Russians say, "Well, you're foolish to even believe in it. That's a ridiculous, you naive." The cynicism of what Russia pushes, and this idea that you claim to have these great liberal democracy ideas, but you never live up to it, and that's where they can dig in and attack us. So I struggled with this, actually. I lived in Moscow for about 5 years, the end of the Yeltsin, beginning of the Putin era. For many years, I struggled with this because I saw it too. I was like, we talk a good game, but we oftentimes fuck up. And it plagued me. I was like, well, why even then pretend to have a democracy? Why even pretend if all these... I was getting... I mean, there's a reason why before it was called gaslighting, it was called Potemkin Village. And I struggled with it. And then I found a quote by one of our greatest leaders, Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln wrote a letter in the run-up to the Civil War where he said, we started this nation with the idea that all men are created. Nationalists are the only Americans who can wear the name of America. I'd rather screw off and go to Russia, where they don't pretend to have democracy. Did they lose us?
It's just come back, I think.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Bugger. Anyhow, check out. Check out the Abraham Lincoln quote. It clarified so much for me, and it basically was. We started saying that all men are created equal. Now the know-nothings, the MAGA of the day, are determining who gets to be an American and who isn't. And if they ever get into power, if the MAGA types ever, because they've always been with us, get back into power, I'd rather immigrate to Russia, where at least they don't pretend to have democracy. And it was like the skies opened up. Thank you, Abraham Lincoln. There's a reason why you're such a great figure in world history. And it was like, you're right. At least we try, and it's so easy for the Russians to be cynical.
Repeat the quote, Phil.
Can you say the quote one more time?
The quote is, "As a nation, we began with the idea that all men are created equal. If the know-nothings ever get into power, the know-nothings who say all men are created equal, except for Catholics, Negroes. I mean, it was the 19th century. Catholics, Negroes." What else did he say? He lists a couple of different, disparate groups. I'd rather leave America and go to Russia, where the despotism is not taken with the base alloy of pretending to be a democracy. So basically, what that quote means is that at least we try. It's a work in progress. It's constant gardening, a democracy, but. The alternative is what Russia is presenting, which is don't. We're not going to try for democracy. We're not going to try and give you rule of law. We're not going to no. If it's power for power's sake in Russia, and it's cynical, and it's why the Ukrainians are fighting so hard, because who wants to live under a system like that, where it's like if you have power, that in and of itself justifies power. Quick little anecdote, a little joke we used to tell in Yeltsin's Moscow. There are two oligarchs. They meet on the street. The first oligarch says, "Look at this new Rolex I got. It's fantastic. I can dive down to 60 meters, and it's jewel encrusted, and it's got satellite connection, so it's always on a precise time, and it's just fantastic." Second oligarch goes, "Yeah, it's really nice. How much did you pay for it?" The first oligarch says, "That was $500,000. Second oligarch goes, "You idiot. There's a place around the corner that sells them for $750,000. You always have to be displaying power. You always have to be, because in Russia's system, if you are not constantly exerting power, somebody will come to take it away from you. It's a brutal system, and they themselves will say, hey, at least we don't pretend your democracy, this naive notion of democracy. Cynically, they look on that, and it's the mindset. It's absolutely the mindset. So, I mean, that's just one of the many reasons why Ukrainians are just not going to take it anymore.
100%. Go ahead, Starsky.
Yeah, I would like to add something to that. Why Russians are fixating on the U.S. so much? First is the U.S. and then is Europe. It's because they're poor. They envy. They never had what the Western countries had. In the U.S., during the summer vacation, you're a student. You could just hop into the car, get some friends, girls, go to the beach, have some beer and stuff. You couldn't do that in the Soviet Union because you would be forcefully taken to the field to gather the harvest and stuff. Because that was the reality. Before 1970s, the people in the villages had no IDs, they had no passports in the Soviet Union. They could not have passports because they were not allowed to travel to the cities. Like, what the hell? And they were always envious towards the Western countries, towards the US, towards Europe, because they had better things. They had things that Russians never had. In Russia, in the Soviet Union specifically, people paid crazy money in order to obtain freaking jeans. They would bribe anybody. They would pay crazy money to get some import, some cassette players, things like that. It's just, guys, in the modern world of globalization, when there's basically no borders, you can go wherever the hell you want to go and see whatever you want to see, buy whatever you want to buy. Russians are not not like that. They don't have money to travel. That's why they're envious, and that's why they go, okay, we cannot have it. That's why we don't want to have it, and we don't care. But they do. First McDonald's in Russia opened in 1990 on the 31st of July, and the queue was 38,000 people.
Golly, bro.
38,000 people.
That's a long line.
For as much as they hate us in the West, they always compare themselves. By their own metrics. They compare themselves to us. It's so, the pathology is so deep in Russia that they hate us, but they love us. They want to be like us, but they know they can't because of all their deficiencies within, all the kind of illness that I talk about with the Ruskaya Dusha and all that stuff. Now, I found the Lincoln quote, and I can quickly read it out. As a nation, we began by declaring that all men are created equal. We now practically read it, all men are created equal except Negroes. When the know-nothings, the MAGA of the day, and keep in mind Negroes was from 19th century language, when the know-nothings get control, it will read all men are created equal except Negroes and foreigners and Catholics. When it comes to this, I should prefer emigrating to some country where they make no pretense of loving liberty, to Russia, for instance, where despotism can be taken pure and without the base alloy of hypocrisy.
Crazy that Lincoln wrote
1800s, he wrote this. This is not new.
Yeah.
This is Tsarist Russia, which led into Soviet Russia. It's all the same illness. It's all the same disease. It's all the same rot at the core of it, which saddens me deeply because I do have Russian friends. I do see the potential for Russia to be a great country. And there's lots of beauty in Russia, in its culture, in its history, all the rest of it. But at the center of gravity is this dark illness. And until that's addressed, and they know it themselves, as I say, it's always gonna be a problem. Ukraine is making that break. Ukraine has a lot of work to do. Ukraine is there's, as I say, there's generational trauma. There's a lot of ugly stuff bubbling beneath the surface in Ukraine, and I say this as a lover of Ukraine. They're going to have to address, but at least they're doing the hard work. Whereas Russia keeps kicking it down the road. They won't address this illness at the heart of them, and that's why I'm hoping that they lose this war. Not only because I want to see Ukraine thrive, but because I hope Russia will finally look in the mirror and do something about this really fucked up part of their society.
Absolutely. And then Starsky, what's your take on what you want to see? Do you want to see Russia? Where do you want to see Russia go after this? In your full opinion, away. Do you want them to collapse, or what do you hope for the Russians, the Russian people, after this invasion?
As a person who lost a lot of friends, I would like to see this beautiful northern ocean that starts immediately after the northern Ukrainian borders. I really don't care. I literally hope they will forget about Ukraine forever. That's what I hope for, sincerely, and I think rest of Ukrainians do as well. I hope they will forget about Ukraine forever. I don't really care. Of course, it's better if your neighbors are democratic, if you can trade with them, if the only expansion that can be possible is like cultural expansion, music, songs, things like that, which Ukraine has, a lot.
Tons.
We can offer.
Endless amounts.
I only say that as an American. I'm a
Oh,
guest
yeah,
here, so
yeah.
I totally get the Ukrainian.
Oh yeah.
perspective.
That's why I
totally
wanted.
get
That's
the
why I wanted his.
It's all good with Ukraine.
Yeah,
I could
100%.
totally- If I was Ukrainian,
Fuck
So-
them.
but I've got Russian friends. And
I don't really care about them. There are people, again, those my friends that I have like on Facebook and sometimes we chat. But those friends, they also say like, I hope that this huge pile of shit collapses because it's useless. I don't like the way my people are brainwashed. I freaking hate it. I would just rather go somewhere else. Personally, I don't care. What I don't want to see is like some opposition taking over and becoming like Putin 0.2.
Basically starting afresh again.
Yeah, because that's they can do. 80% Russians support the military invasion in Ukraine. The problem with Russians actually is not Putin. It's like collective Putin. That's why it is gonna take a lot of time for Russians to change their mindset, to become democratic. It will take centuries probably, because one of my friends, oh my god, I hate this dementia because I forgot who he was, but he was from the US and before going to Russia, he asked his friends I need to know more about the country, and they go, just get any Russian author, classical writer of probably 18th century, read their books. Nothing changed. They have they have this they have an author, and by the way, you gotta know that most of the classic Russian authors, 17th, 18th century, they were repressed. Even though they're classic, but they were repressed because they were writing the truth. And one of them wrote, if you wake up in 100 years, you will still see that nothing changed in Russia. People taking bribes, people lie, poor people repressed. And he wrote that 200 years ago. So basically, the dude was like, okay, it will take tremendous amount of time, because they hate the rest of the world, because they cannot have all the benefits that the rest of the world has, because you have to work in order to have that, because you have to implement reforms, because you have to trade with other people, you have to respect them, you have to respect other nations. You don't call Americans pindosy, you have to respect Americans in order to trade with them. You don't call Japanese churki. You have to respect Japanese and you have to trade with them. No, they have derogative terms for like Everybody, guys. So you have to respect other nations. That's something they don't have. No, they have big army and they don't want to work.
I got a great story about this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So there's another anecdote or idiom or joke, whatever, a story. And it reveals a lot because so many of Russia's like fables and stories are about getting wishes. To Starsky's point about, they don't want to work for it, they want it to be given to them.
Yeah.
There's a story, there's a very famous Russian anecdote about a farmer, and he's working in his fields and he comes across a genie. He rubs the lamp or whatever. The genie comes out and says, I'm going to give you a wish. But whatever I give you, I'm going to give your neighbor twice. And so the farmer thinks about it for a second and he says, take out one of my eyes. Tells you a lot about Russia's mentality.
Oh my goodness.
These little anecdotes that I learned when I was living in Russia and stuff, they give you an insight. And that's, I think, a good one. I've stuck to that one.
All right. Go ahead.
There's one comment I would like to address. What do Russians say about Chinese? So Russians have this derogative term for Chinese and basically Asian people, which is kosoglazые. And in Russian culture, all the Chinese are, those small, yellow, funny people, very stupid, by the way.
Yeah.
That's basically it. They have a lot of jokes, for example. Oh my God! Like a nuclear bomb exploded in China. According to rough estimates, there were like no casualties. So like they enjoy that kind of shit. So that's what they think about Chinese people.
They don't think much of anything about anyone but themselves, you guys. That's what it sounds like. So let's take it to Alex for our weather report. You're watching Good Morning Kyiv. We got Phillip, Itner, and operator Starsky on. Hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Great conversation again this morning. And now for the weather.
Thanks very much, Andrew. I mean, we can see in the background quite clearly that it's not going to be a cold day here.
No.
Andrew's got the legs out, I have. John's going to be in his Speedos later on, I'm pretty sure, because already today in Kyiv it's 23 degrees. I'm going to switch it to Fahrenheit as well so people in America can understand what I'm talking about. It's 74 Fahrenheit and it's 8:44 in the morning, right? That is looking dangerous. There's no cloud. There's no cloud coming until 1700 hours. It's going to be around 89 Fahrenheit. I reckon it's going to push 90. It's got to hit 90, hasn't it? I was lying out here yesterday. I looked like some sort of Georgian kebab within 2 minutes. It's absolutely devastatingly hot. Well, that's it, man. We don't get that in England. We got cloud at the moment. The birds are flying around. They've all flown over from Kerch because you can't fly there due to the smoke at the moment. So that's pretty much the weather in Kyiv at the moment. The weather in Crimea is very cloudy and it's not natural. In terms of chat questions, I mean, man, there's been so few in this episode just because. And it's been captivating, man. Like reading through, like we've got 1,800 people watching live, which is absolutely smashed the record.
And I mean, I hope that I came over here. I was offered jobs by big networks and stuff to cover this, but I wanted to come here and cover this situation differently than maybe what you hear from other places. I'm going to let other people do the day-to-day battles and the military stuff and let the networks go and go to the front lines or go to the refugee centers. I wanted to give context and depth and understanding of who these people are, why they're fighting so hard, why they deserve their sovereignty and their liberty, what Russia is trying to... There's a lot of complexities in this region. So I know that a lot of people like to learn about the day-to-day military stuff. So I hope they're learning something new from what I'm providing. but there's so much complexity here. So
from looking in the chat, John, throughout the whole show, Philip, I can completely, mate.
Like John Sweeney,
Half of the people in
that
here were like,
Sweeney,
is
dare
that
you?"
John? They've asked, do you have an orange hat? Like so.
I kid Sweeney because I love him, but you know, he's a nut. He's a nut.
Yeah,
He's mad as a bloody hatter.
And they've been saying it so much, I'm now even calling you John. The other thing to point out as well, just a couple of things from it throughout it, is Rick the Ukrainian, one of the other guests, did raise a lot of money last night for medical kits, and it is important to note that, you know, whilst I make some funny jokes and this show has been about the history of the Russian mindset, there is a full-scale war going on in the background, right? And there are people dying every day. So that's why Andrew has his campaigns going on at the moment for trucks. That's why he came here in the first place, and he came with our 69 Sniffing Brigade to deliver pickup trucks. So please.
And I've traveled around the country a lot, and I've seen the devastation. I was just in Kherson, for example. Been out to Kharkiv, been out to Donbass several times. Yeah, I mean, this country needs a lot of support. So anything you can give.
Tell them the link in the description.
The link's in the description. The mods are putting it in the chat. Let's push that one over and get it done,
Get it done
today if we can.
Tell them I'll be on the next convoy.
And we'll get Andrew back on the next convoy. That means that will be very, very soon. So if you want to see Andrew back in August with me doing Good Morning Kyiv,
September at the latest, or August at the earliest.
August, September latest, then we have to get these campaigns done.
Perfect.
Over to you, Andrew.
Absolutely. So, Lee, I was gonna have Starsky. Why? So, just in case there's some new viewers, because again, we got a record today, and you might have some people that I've never heard your channel. By the way, click the title. Go subscribe to Operator Starsky's YouTube channel. Phillip, where do you primarily do your work?
I do my work mostly on YouTube. I vlog. I do interviews, and it's just my name, Phillip Itner, all one word, one L in Phillip, two T's in Itner. Going to have a website up and running soon, I hope.
Oh, yeah.
And just again trying to not skate along the surface of what happens on the day-to-day, but to try and get some depth and understanding of a lot of complexities that this place has.
And then Starsky, why do you do your channel? What motivates you to keep it going? Because you're in the you're serving the Ukrainian armed forces as well. You defended Hostomel from the Russians, literally fought them. What keeps motivating you to keep your channel going and keep talking about it while also fighting the Russians?
People do. My channel is and will always be dedicated to my foreign friends, to my foreign viewers, foreign community that supports Ukraine, also Russian trolls, because after the war is finished, of course, angry Ukrainian man will be able to travel around the world, and I would like to ask a lot of questions to people, supporting Russian terrorism, and I would like to meet them and make them answer me in person, looking in my eye, why they rooted for Russia, why they wanted me and my family to die, and things like that. I will be freaking enjoying this conversation. But the main thing is the international community that supports Ukraine. That, when I saw this support in the beginning of this invasion, something changed in me. Because, the world was underestimating itself. People were underestimating themselves. Russians were underestimating the international community, and when the international community stood up and stood with Ukraine, I realized that we have so many things in common, and those people, people say that Kyiv is the capital of brave people. I think that after the war is finished, Kyiv will belong to everybody, to the world, because the world is full of brave people, decent people, and they are my main reason why I keep running this channel. And of course, I like to throw jokes from time to time. That's another reason.
Right. So, and then one of my favorite new shirt series that I picked up, it's Be Brave, and it's got Ukrainian symbol on it. All right, a couple of fan funding questions, and then I'm going to hand it over to Alex, and you guys can start asking Philip and Operator Starsky, or Alex or myself, any questions that you guys want. You don't have to send it through a super chat. It just helps it be seen, but just Alex is on there tracking questions, and he will pick and choose you guys' questions. So from Dunk on You, dudes, you're the best morning show. If it didn't have to work, I'd be here for the full stream. Keep on doing the deed with the orcs, dead orcs, deed orcs. It's posted afterwards, so say you can't stay for the whole stream, or you just started tuning in now, the stream will be posted afterwards forever, so you can always rewatch it. I actually categorized Good Morning Kyiv as a podcast on YouTube, which is an amazing new feature. So you can click on podcasts on our YouTube homepage, and you can watch all of them in one go if you would like to, as like a anthology. Lars says, congratulations, Andrew, have a great birthday. Thank you. That's coming up on Wednesday. 30 years old. Here we go. Dunk on You 23, please do not ignore air raid sirens. What you and everyone there are doing is extremely valuable. I'll have you talk about the air raid sirens too in a bit, Philip.
I'm just waiting to hear Luke Skywalker. Mark Hamill tells me when there's an air raid coming.
Oh, he does he?
He did the English version of the air raid siren.
Air raid alarm. That's right.
So I get Luke Skywalker to tell me to go to the air raid siren.
Oh my god!
I always listen to a Jedi.
I got it. Oleg, thank you for the 5 gifteds. Jaguar, welcome to level 1. Jennifer, borscht fun, thank you. I gotta have some more. I've had it now 3 times. I still have to try the green borscht probably this week or today. Dunk on You, do not ignore the sirens. Jeez, because after the sirens had ended, I took a photo yesterday because in the Midwest we have this thing where we just look at the sky for when. Oh yeah, when the tornado sirens are going off. Midwestern dad pose, and I did that. So they're like, don't ignore the sirens. Vladinator 10 gifted memberships. Nikolai, thank you so much for that. Vladinator says, thank you, Phil, Starsky, Alex, and Merc for a wonderful stream. Question on your point, Phil. What do you and the others think will happen when regular Russians realize how many died in this war and tragedy was created? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but why don't you reiterate that? Yeah,
I mean, when they learn how much, and they're hiding that from the people. I mean, that's why we know that they're mobile crematoriums here. They're hiding it from the people when they find out. Well, I've said it before earlier in the podcast about territory. They're going to lose the cornerstone of their sense of self by empire when they lose Ukraine, which is is happening, already has happened. When they learn about the deaths, it's only going to make it worse. Putin is screwed. Putin is, and right now I think what's happening in Moscow with the Prigozhin stuff and all the rest of it is there's an old thing. There's a thing called the boyar class in the Tsarist system. And this repeats itself within Russian history, is that when the Tsar, the titular head of state, is shown to be weak or makes really bad decisions like this one, the boyars, they gather and they circle. And they're like sharks when there's blood in the water. They circle and they nip at one another until a dominant arises. And then they take out the Tsar. And I think that's what we're seeing formulate right now. Right now, I think they're all going into their corners to prepare for what is coming. And Putin himself, knowing his country's history and knowing how precarious his situation is, I think is trying to maneuver this so that he can get the best result post Putin. He's trying to, so that whoever comes to power afterwards is going to give him the best deal that he can possibly get. Sadly for Putin, I don't think that's possible, because this is going to be the most catastrophic loss in Russia's history, and I don't think any Russian leader could survive losing Ukraine and Crimea. It's too big of a loss. So that's kind of what I think will happen when they learn about the deaths and they recognize they've lost territory.
A year and a half into their 3-day war, almost 250,000 Russian losses. NATO has expanded. They've lost almost half of their territory that they had gained
they
lost half their navy.
The Black Sea and the Baltic Sea.
But Putin remains a master strategist. Anyways, just be safe today and tonight. I am half Ukrainian on my mother's side. While bravado is cool, keep your eye on the prize. Absolutely. Hey.
Krushatik.
Yeah, it's Krushatik. It's literally. Hey, okay, here we go. Nikolai Glazada says, "Hey, Starsky, thanks for giving the best no bullshit updates. Been a fan since the early days. Sent you a morale patch I made for my cousins and unit to say thanks. Tara S pointing to Russia. Have you received that?"
Taras pointing to Russia.
Said he sent you a morale patch.
I gotta check this one because I was divorced, as you know, and my ex now lives in my apartment, and sometimes she doesn't tell me, about the mail that I gotta go there and ask her.
All right, we will find out for you. Dunk on You says, "I'm not. We'll figure it out. Dunk on You. Promise, we'll be all right. Okay." Rick 5 gifteds. Ali for 8 months says, "Crimea is Ukraine. We're Ukrainians, not Russians." Jose, member for 1 month. When you get a chance, I missed the new guys intro. If we'll just rewind, Jose. They introduced themselves at the very start. Again, the stream will be posted. Yeah. Emma Pema says, "Get that truck almost there. Love from Melbourne." Timmy Winnipeg says, "This is to hire someone to clean the colored goo from those 2 glasses." Phillip, I don't know what that means. It's just the way the glasses have a little bit of a tint at the bottom. It's not goo. It's just how the glasses are. Phillip, welcome to the channel. Emma, is Maester Gifford still in Ukraine? I believe he is. You know who Maester Gifford is?
I know Macy,
Yeah, Alex can talk about that maybe in a second. I don't believe he is. I will find out for you. Stefan R says, "Yo guys, happy for you, Andrew. Cheers, Starsky. Is it too early to start drinking?" No, it's not actually here in Ukraine. I'm not a big drinker, but it's really never a bad time to have a drink here, honestly. You can go have a beer at KFC if you want, which I went to yesterday. David Prange, $20 super chat. Emma says, "More for the truck fund, funny community." Smart Ignorance, haven't caught a stream in a while, but glad to see the good work you're doing is still going strong and evolving, unlike the orcs for, W for Ukraine. W Ukraine in the chat. Brian V, I just want to thank you guys for the amazing work you're doing on the fundraiser in Slava, Ukraine. We're actually on our 4th truck technically, but we forgot to finish the 3rd truck, and there's literally less than 2,000 euro to go, you guys. We have 1,800 people in the chat. If you guys each put 100 euro, if you can, that's taken care of, just like that. And you guys would be amazing. Obviously, you don't have to, but feel free if you would like to support the mission here, because me and Alex are in the NAFO 69th Sniffing Brigade. We drive vehicles from Estonia down through Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and into Ukraine. It's a 30-hour drive, 1,200 miles, but it's so worth it. Such a rewarding experience to literally hand the trucks to Ukrainian soldiers, so you know that what you're donating to this fundraiser. And also I provide content for it, and Alex does too. Everyone on the NAFO brigade does, so you can literally see that we're handing it to the soldiers, shaking their hands, and then they drive off with it. And then they go above and beyond and provide a video of the truck at the front line saying, "Hey, thank you for the truck." And it's going to be used now. We have work to do. Jose says, "With the amount lost, their parents and families have to be aware of it by now and spreading the news."
Yeah. Oh, I think that's definitely happening.
Yeah.
The problem is getting information out of Russia is really difficult because it's so controlled. But just hearing the tone of things and kind of stuff like on Telegram and stuff where people have access to VPNs and they can talk about it, the edges are fraying. For sure, the edges are fraying. And I've said many, many times, one of the things about Russia's history is that nothing happens, everything happens all at once. They're a country that suffers until they can't suffer anymore. And then there's this massive upheaval. And that's not a healthy, by the way, also not a healthy way for a society to develop.
No.
But, and I'm hoping that changes. I really am, sincerely. But that's their history, is that they suffer as long as they can. Then they have a revolution or an upheaval. And then nothing really does change. And then they suffer and suffer and suffer and all the rest of it. So I think Russians are getting, and I think it's, the writing is on the wall. They know it. They're just in denial.
100%. Thank you guys so much for your super questions. And now, Al, I'm going to take it over to Alex for your guys' general questions. Ask them just at Alex or at me in the chat, and he'll read it. And you ask anything you would like to Phillip or Operator Starsky, Alex, or myself.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll wind back just earlier on slightly, just back to the Kerch Bridge, because there was a lot of debate on, what actually took out the Kerch Bridge. But what What became a little bit suspicious, Starsky, that people pointed out was, well, they haven't ever seen your donuts, and now the bridge has been blown up. So, we're wondering if there was, something, there was a bit of a connection. Starsky said he had donuts. He was running late. He messaged me on the way going, the Kerch bridge is being taken out and the donuts have never arrived. So I'll let you lot decide what happened. But in terms of taking things a little bit more seriously, Sally asked, are my family in Ukraine safe? My cousins and everyone else that lives here. Philip, I've got more family in Ukraine than I have in Britain. I'm part Ukrainian. And the answer is yes. They're not in an occupied area. They're in a safe place. So everyone is okay. But thank you very much for asking and showing concern. I'm going to jump on a couple of questions specifically for you as well, Philip. I'm going to start with a light one, and then we'll get back onto the more serious news. And that is that people are very interested in what are those tattoos on your arms?
This is my tattoo of when I became a British citizen, which was a very difficult thing to do. It's my keep calm and carry on, and the Queen's insignia, because I became a British citizen just before Elizabeth passed away, and so that's my to remind me that I am a British citizen and how proud I am to be a British citizen. This is my tattoo of the King of Hearts card, just because I like the iconography. I've got a few other inked around me, but that's that.
Thank you very much, John.
God save the king.
God save the king, but we still miss Liz, don't we? She was the dog.
She was the dog's bollocks.
I will take it a little bit more into the serious domain, and that is that there's a general question, I think, for all of you really, and that is that people have an interest in what your views are on Belarus and what the future of it might hold. Be it the fact that Wagner's getting involved, be it that Russia's failing to take Ukraine. What's going to happen to that nation in the future? Who would like to go first?
You want to go?
I will come over to Mr. Starsky. I'll take a little knee.
Thank you so much. So, as for the Belarusians, I believe that Lukashenko will be removed after Putin. I believe probably they will be removed at the same day. I want to believe so. And another thing is that, of course, Belarusians will be responsible. I'm very sorry to say this, unfortunately, but those people will be also responsible for paying reparations to Ukraine, as well as Iranians. Again, I'm sorry, unfortunately, but this is the truth. So we will see them paying reparations to Ukraine because Belarusian territory was used in this invasion as their I forgot the term.
Staging area?
Yes. Also, they hit Ukraine with missiles fired from the territory of Belarus. A lot of time, even recently, the Russian aviation is used to launch missiles and drones from the territory of Belarus, surveillance drones and things like that. So that's the future of Belarus that I see.
Philip?
Yeah, I look, Lukashenko's only in power because Putin's in power. When Putin falls, so will Lukashenko. The people of Belarus are as much a victim of Putin's Moscow as anybody. I've been to Belarus a couple of times. I was in Belarus a week before 9/11, as a matter of fact, to witness one of their elections, and I saw how brutally they put down any opposition or anybody who came out on the streets to protest their constant I say illegal. They are illegal. They're illegal in false elections that they have in Belarus. I feel very similar in some ways to how I feel about the Ukrainians when I talk about the Belarusians, because they don't deserve what they've gotten, and it's long overdue that they're also free from basically Moscow. So when Putin goes, so does Lukashenko, and it'll be a good thing for everybody.
And we have a question for Alex that just came in the chat. Would you like an American girlfriend?
Sure. I like Americans. I've never had an American girlfriend, so maybe if we share values and we get on, that could always be an option. I am a single man. That's certainly been asked on the spot. But yeah, thanks for your.
I only wish an American accent would work the other way in Britain. British accents, you get American girls throwing themselves at you. An American accent in London does nothing.
I'm sorry, Philip. I'm sorry. No. You didn't sound it. Which is good. Andrew, just to interweave a more lightweighted question, that's sort of part of your wider Mercado Media empire, I'm going to call it empire. And for anyone wondering as well, this morning when we went out yesterday and bought tea, which they've got a ridiculous amount of different teas.
Oh yeah.
We
Did you go into the market, the Bessarabsky market at the tea shop there?
No, we haven't gone to the tea shop.
Oh, you got to go to the tea shop.
No, we went to a supermarket and they had. We went to and we brought British Empire tea. I mean, this is the only place that you can possibly go in the world where people are still representing or talking about the British Empire. I'm pretty sure that we're just a small island that decided to cut ourselves off from Europe for some reason a few years ago. Anyway, back to something more serious, and that is, Andrew, would you mind going out at some point and doing a video or a live stream on a food vendor for the Snack Squad channel in Discord?
Yeah, I could. I could do a stream at a restaurant or something. It's but the issue is it's like a private establishment, so like going live in like someone's business. I could ask permission to, I suppose.
No, we could set that up.
Oh, we could set that up, no problem. Yeah, we could do that.
Great Crimean Tatar place.
Oh, is that the one? No, though we haven't gone to that. We went to a Georgian restaurant, which is amazing. And oh my God, you guys, like what you get for your money here. It's like me and Alex had 3 main dishes, a side dish, drinks for $20 here at this Georgian restaurant.
Georgian food is Georgian food is one of the world's
oh my God,
best unknown cuisines.
America,
it's so good.
We need Georgian food.
We need
Georgian food bad.
So good, isn't it?
Yeah. And in Britain, man, like until I came here, I'd never actually tried it before.
Yeah. And given Brits' love of curries and Indian foods, there's a lot of coriander involved, a lot of cumin, very same spice palette as Georgian food. Anywhere in the world, if you can find a Georgian restaurant, go check it out. You'll really love it.
You've heard it here, Georgian food for the win. I mean, we've got questions quite a lot relating to the Kerch Bridge attack, because that tends to have a knock-on impact, and people would like to know how will Putin respond to Kerch Bridge, do each of you feel?
All right, how will Starsky we know how you will respond. Fuck yeah. How will Putler respond to the Kerch Bridge being hit again today? How do you think it will?
Well, I don't think that he will be very upset about it, because obviously railway is still running. So I think he will be very upset if some of the pillars holding the rail on the if it collapses. That's when we will see him panicking. But Dmitry Medvedev, that drunk fuck, he already threatens the world again with nuclear apocalypse. Just don't ignore. He's drunk. He has to sleep. There was a question about what happens in Kharkiv. So there were several updates. First of all, yesterday Kharkiv was hit by S-300 missiles repeatedly. The Osnovyansky district of Kharkiv was hit. There were reports of casualties. Mayor reported about 7 victims. There were reports of 4 victims. Currently, we know that several of, civilian enterprises were damaged. As for the victims, we will need to wait for the updates for the details.
And I'll provide an update to Kharkiv as well as the Kerch Bridge tonight on my war stream. All right, same question to you, Philip, about what do you think Putin's reaction to the Kerch Bridge being hit?
Well, Putin's in a no-win situation when it comes to the Kerch Bridge. he's got to address it, obviously, but he also doesn't want to draw attention to it because it's a clear example that, they're fucked. So he's got to balance this thing. I'm sure he will come out and call it terrorism, and I'm sure he'll make threats, and I'm sure he'll, you're killing civilians and blah, 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 blah. But again, he also can't big up it. He can't draw too much attention to it because the contract he has with Russians is you will not see chaos in. That's the agreement he made with them when he came out of the 90s and after the chaos of the 90s and Yeltsin, his whole thing was it's going to be cool, everything's going to be fine, and so that contract is being broken on the daily. So he can't win. There's no good response to what happened at the Kerch Bridge today for him, and I'm really going to cry a river.
Back to Alex.
He can go fuck himself.
Yeah, go fuck off.
We've had some questions, Andrew, on getting female guests onto the show. Now,
We haven't time. Tell them we've been trying to.
yeah, we are working on it. We have some more guests coming up this week, and I'm going to go and speak to some people today when I get back into the office. So we will get the Ukrainian female representation on here as quickly as possible, because they are, along with everyone else that's in Ukraine, are incredibly resilient, amazing people, and it'll be super cool to get their stories as well. We do have some other guests lined up this week already, though, including what will be a British fighter in the Foreign Legion at the front who will be coming on to share his stories, and hopefully we can get Starsky on at the same time as well so they can talk together. I think that would be super cool. Obviously we've got Andrew's birthday special as well, which is going to be just ram-packed with everyone that we can stack on the balcony, and hopefully the thing doesn't collapse. We've got a pretty big coke cage above us though. People are suggesting I could wear a wig for balance. Yes, that is the modern world. I've got plenty of wigs in the bag. I just tend to wear them in the street with my dresses, but thank you for asking that. Beyond that, I think, Andrew, I mean, we're at 9:15 now. We've been,
This is the longest one.
Yeah.
And she's in Kyiv? In the chat. Oh, what the fuck? Say hi to Ace.
Anna?
Oh, I will.
Anna, I want to interview
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
You're doing great work.
Anna, hey, reach out. I'm in your Discord server. We're trying to actually get a hold of you, and they said they gave an email, but I want to make sure that it's yours. And same with Phillip. Would love to actually have a conversation with you.
You're
So
doing great work, Anna. Keep it up.
yeah, keep it up. Absolutely great work. So thank you for being in our chat. Make sure you also go subscribe to Anna from Ukraine's YouTube channel. Just excellent analysis and excellent commentary. So back to Alex.
So perhaps Anna can come on the show then. That would be super cool. I mean, probably one of the. If,
She's in a different.
doesn't sound like that. Maybe we can.
City I've never been to.
Obviously, we can do a. Let me see. I mean, no matter what though, we can do a virtual discussion and do it like video chat. Where you can be on and I'm talking and we have an audience. Even if it's not live like here in person, we can definitely make that happen no matter what.
I'm a huge fan.
Oh yeah.
Brilliant. Well, there we go. That's hopefully Anna will be coming on later on this week as we carry on the show. The show will be live until next Saturday, and then there'll be the Saturday closing special that's just basically going to go on for 9 hours. Let me have a look what we've got here. Andrew, just to confirm, because it is your birthday this week, people are just wondering exactly what day that is so they can be ready for it.
Yeah, Wednesday. I don't know what to be ready for. I turned 30. I don't even know what we're gonna do. I mean, I actually did ask for 2 gifts from John actually, because I want his book. I want the Killer in the Kremlin signed copy, and then I want to be in his war diaries telling Putin to fuck off, because that's his whole thing. But beyond that, I mean, I think we're gonna be going to have some food. We're gonna be hanging out. I'll do a vlog that day actually. I've been taking notes from Starsky and others about just recording some video and not focus. My thing with the streams is I can be myself and talk to you guys and it's live, but when I'm doing videos, it's like fuck. I gotta edit and like put things together and it's like I'm like, oh, is this work? Is this right? And I'm just like, it takes me forever, but I'm starting to be faster at it. But I'll do a video like for my whole day on Wednesday and post it on Thursday or whatever of my birthday.
We go home on Saturday the 22nd. Rick, the Ukrainian, has a birthday present for you as well, so he'd like to give that to you. I can see throughout, I believe he has popped up in the chat, so hello Rick, good to see you, buddy. I mean, mate, there are people throughout the chat, throughout this, that are trying to give you presents and so on and so forth, so we're gonna have to book the apartment next door. Beyond that, how bad is the bridge? Well, the bridge is fucked. The traffic is fucked. So, you know, if you're in Crimea and you support Russia, leave as quickly as possible, because the armed forces of Ukraine are coming to liberate it, and everyone here is ready to party on the beach as soon as possible. Alex, has the BBC or CNN contacted you after your professional morning shows? No, they haven't. We haven't been offered a contract yet by the.
I worked in that business for 25 years. I know the deal.
But yeah, I don't think that independent news is really what they want to see flourishing. It is of a threat to the BBC license, including the fairly average crap content they put out.
Try and explain the complexities of Ukraine in 2 minutes and 15 seconds, so that you can keep eyeballs on and get to the commercial A block. Exactly. It's about. You're going to get the surface stuff from them.
No depth.
Yeah, I think you just couldn't really get away with this in scheduling on most mainstream media, and that is the issue. In terms of the bridge, Starsky, perhaps you can give people an update specifically on how many sections were destroyed, and
Yeah. What can you see in
Yeah, so currently one section was destroyed. Basically, the reports were about one pillar. Pillar usually holds two sections, right? So one pillar was completely collapsed, another pillar was damaged. Basically, we're talking about several sections that cannot be used at this point. Again, my personal opinion is Putin doesn't care about people using that bridge at all. That's why the cars, the traffic that stop doesn't matter. What matters is the railway used by the Russian troops to deliver tanks and fuel and vehicles and the personnel.
So essentially, they need to hit that railway portion of the bridge. But again, it'll stop traffic, but they got to hit that strategic point of the bridge. Steven, with a big $200 super chat, asks, I know, geez, there is some hilarity with Lukashenko taking in Wagner after taking a riot shield election a few years ago with the Kadyriovites coming to the rescue. The original Mr. Potato Head. Mashed potatoes seem on the horizon. So Lukashenko taking in Kadyriovites. You know about that at all?
Kadyriovites, I think a lot of what is happening with Prigozhin and with the other various disparate militias that exist within Russia is that they are starting to recognize that there is going to be a post-Putin era, and they're starting to maneuver themselves to be in a position where they can exert influence in whatever that post-Putin era is going to be. So I think Prigozhin takes breath today because Putin wants him to.
Yeah.
Prigozhin is not in prison because Putin doesn't want him there. But he can't have him on Russian soil, so he puts him over in Belarus, although that's been fudged. But I see Prigozhin and the chaos that all these disparate militia groups are foisting or creating as part of this larger issue. And if Putin wants him alive, it's because he thinks that there's a use. Putin doesn't let anybody do anything unless he thinks that he can use them. So Prigozhin, I think, is being set up to be his little attack dog, maybe against other boyars, other factions. I see the same thing with the Kadyrovs. But the bigger picture thing with all of this is that we can see the fraying. But this would never have happened 3 years ago. Yeah. Oh God!
What the hell is?
I know. He's showing me a picture of Kadyrov. He's also vile. Yeah, there's something going on. There's some testosterone or some sort of Yeah, he's
Chernobyl vehicle brought to.
Absolutely. But all of this, to my mind, is because this never would have happened. The Tsar can not be seen to be vulnerable. So the very fact that there are all these factions that are, being very vocal, being very, indicates to me that things are starting to fall apart, and the realization that he's not going to be in the Kremlin forever.
No. Same with you, Starsky. What do you got?
Regarding?
Kadyriovites, the question in Belarus. Kadyrivite influence.
It's not like it. Also, by the way, one other quick thing. It's not a staging area. They're not coming from Belarus. They'd be smacked out.
Oh, smacked.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I know, Prigozhin's terrorists had some conflict with Kadyrovites, and yeah. So you remember Kadyrovite wrote shit about Prigozhin, and basically they were even sent there to stop Prigozhin's troops from entering Moscow. So if they're both like spiders in the same jar, maybe they were sent there together for this specific purpose.
Interesting.
There's a thing in Russian history called "If the Tsar Only Knew," which is it elevates the Tsar, which Putin is just a later day Tsar. Yeah. It elevates him beyond reproach. So if you have all these guys, the reason why everything's going wrong, it's not because of Putin. I mean, it's because all these people who are under Putin aren't doing their job properly. It's a way to keep this vertical power structure in Russia with a Tsar at the top. It keeps him separate from all the crap that's going on. So that why are we losing in Ukraine? Well, it can't be Putin. It's got to be one of his advisors. Yes. So then that's where you have this internecine fighting happen, and then somebody will emerge, and then we will see what happens with Putin. But right now, it's the separation between the guy who is beyond reproach, Putin, and all these lieutenants of his.
Jose asks, thoughts on Moldova, and this is from the super chats are coming in, and then we'll hand it over to Alex for a few more regular questions. Thoughts on Moldova and Kaliningrad in the future and after the war?
Well, first of all, if Ukraine ever decides that we should help Moldova to liberate the Pridnestrovia from the Russian troops, I think we should definitely do that. We should help our friends, of course. As for Kaliningrad, I think you're talking about Krulevets, because Krulevets is its natural name, right? Poland decided that it will change, the geography titles to Krulevets. So we should respect internationally recognized borders, of course. But again, there are cases, and I think there are organizations like the United Nations that should do something, that should start freaking working, and because they receive big salaries. So we will see. We will see. We know that Krulevets doesn't belong to Russia. I remember this funny story that when the city was occupied by Russians, by the Soviet troops, in 2 weeks, all the sewers stopped working. It took just 2 weeks, and since that time they don't work until today. My friend Alex from another friend. I forgot where it comes from. So he visited this city, and he said that it looks like the World War II ended there just yesterday, because there are still buildings that were bombed and they're still in that state. Like Soviet Union did nothing to this city in order to restore something or whatever in 80 years. So maybe maybe things will change for them. We'll see.
Same question back to you on Moldova and Kaliningrad.
No, I think Starch just said pretty much everything. I think Transnistria, the breakaway part of Moldova, needs to be returned to Moldova, and because it whets the appetite of Imperial Russia. So that definitely should change. As far as Kaliningrad is concerned, I mean, in the coming chaos that will be Russia, we'll have to see if that's sustainable, because right now there's only the single railway that connects the enclave to the rest of the Federation. I could see that falling.
At the same time, there's people repeatedly asking about Transnistria. Transnistrian Republic or whatever was not recognized, right?
No.
It belongs to Moldova officially. Officially, according to the international legislation, and again, we should respect the international recognized borders, it belongs to Transnistria. It's an occupied territory, occupied by the Russian troops. Obviously, Russian troops must be removed from this area. It must be returned back to Moldova.
Thank you so much for answering that. Now, a few final questions, you guys. Ask Alex. Feel free to ask away here. He's going to read a couple more here, but then we're going to go to breakfast this morning. We have gone quite the extra amount of time, but it's okay. I mean, we don't even have a time limit. We've just kind of, we could literally go like all day. Oh yeah, we could keep going, but we got to let America go to bed at some point because they got work coming up here, and I know people are staying up late to watch this. So back to Alex.
And it's appreciated.
Very appreciated.
It is getting hungry here now, isn't it? I'm looking at you guys as like bits of bacon and sausage now. Like it's all getting a bit fucking weird. But I just got to give a shout out to Jaguar as well. She's a British NAFO fella that does a lot for fighting online and like the cyber and the trolls and stuff like that. She's a big fan of yours, Starsky. And I need to try and sort her out a little present from you. I've just been asked how tall I am. Do you remember we had Alligator Mick Dundee? Like, I'm pretty much the same size as him. It's just like the imagery on the photos here like really makes me look quite small. But it's not true. I'm at least twice the size of Phillip.
But I'm twice as large.
Yeah. People are asking about drones just very briefly, and about does Ukraine have the capacity to produce drones? Yes, it does. There are some pretty amazing innovations in Ukrainian defense tech and mil tech going on. I think they've innovated the use of Chinese systems like Mavic, but we'll see a lot more of the drone warfare evolving as we go along throughout the coming months. I don't really want to
anti-drone technology.
The electronic warfare shit, the CUAS guns.
Totally. That is going to transform modern warfare as we've known it previously. What else have we got here? I will see if I can just grab one out quickly, Andrew. People are calling me the string bean. Yeah, that's fair enough. I'll take that. Who snores louder, you or Andrew? Well, we are sleeping in separate rooms. The relationship hasn't got that close yet, so I can't quite answer that. I do know that I can snore at times, though, so I'm going to say it's me, just to be self-depreciating. Beyond that, where was the thing that I saw earlier on? God, there's so many things coming into the chat because people are saying so much. Where's it gone? It's the Transnistria region. How do I say it properly? Transnistria. I mean, people just wanted to have a quick view on that as well, around, what... They touched it. That's fine. Okay, question just quickly for you, Phil. Are you going to be on the House Sparks show on Wednesday? Does that mean anything?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
House Sparks is a guy who does a daily bulletin, and I usually actually join him on Saturdays and Wednesdays.
Okay.
So
thank you.
It's a podcast.
And people in general, they're liking our duo, and they ask, like, is there some sort of way that we might be able to keep it going when we return to our separate countries? Mine being that small island that cut itself off from the world.
The issue is I do my war stream at like 7 o'clock at night, and I run it until about 9. And in order to do this, it's literally morning time here, so I'd have to stay up until midnight in the U.S. and it wouldn't even be morning though. So it's like, I don't know. Me and Alex, we're gonna be coming back on the convoys, you guys. Like I'm gonna be coming back to Ukraine, bringing equipment for the Ukrainian soldiers. You know what I mean? So even if we're not, this just started on a whim. We'll continue it when we come back. But I mean, we have things to do to bring the Ukrainian soldiers stuff. So, and that's what our tasking is.
Let's not forget, I've got marriage proposals, mate, from America. You know, you never know what happens in the future. But no, I'll just give one brief.
Tell them here one really quick. If you want to see us, if you want to see this more, donate to the NAFO brigade so we can come back and do more. The link is in the description. Get that third truck fundraised, and then we're already well on our way in the fourth truck. I think we're at like €6,000 already out of 15,500 for the medical unit. So we're raising money for the special forces of Ukraine. I gotta check. We might have hit it already. I gotta look. I'll look right now as Alex is gonna ask a question. But if you want to see us back here doing this, donate to the NAFO 69 Sniffing Brigade and get the truck going.
Yeah, Andrew will be coming back to Ukraine. Someone just asked, Johan. Yeah, absolutely, mate. As soon as he gets the third truck finished off, ideally today's well under €2,000 left to go. That needs to be bought into the country, and Andrew will be driving it. Let me see that. That was nearly. Super little weather update. It's still 77 Fahrenheit out here. The traffic is still moving in Crimea. It's an absolute standstill. Yanks girls go nuts over British accents. Absolutely bonkers. Yes, Philip was explaining that to me.
Cruel reality.
I know. We haven't got anything else going for us. So at least we've got our voices, right? You know, like so.
That and Branston Pickle.
Oh, mate, Branston Pickle. Oh, yeah. That's it. That's it. Beyond that, I think it's been super cool, though, this show. It's been very enjoyable. Time's disappeared.
I want to quickly, just because we got the platform here, I want to address something, because there's somebody in the chat who is working on against Russian disinformation, and I want to take the opportunity to say one thing about that. I could say much more, but I'm going to say one quick thing. The narrative of this Nazis are everywhere in Ukraine, obviously that's bullshit, but I want to give people ammunition. One, this war has been going on for now over, practically, a year and a half. The entire international press corps is here, including journalists from BRICS nations who ostensibly might be friendly with Russia. Where are all the Nazis? Where are they all? Sure, you can pull out an example, but I mean, why are Indian journalists or South African or Brazilian or whatever, why aren't they showing you the marching up and down the streets with Nazis and all the rest of it? This country is made up of different ethnic groups, not because they conquered, but because different empires passed through here. So they've had to work amongst themselves. Unlike in Russia, where Russia expanded and was the dominant ethnic group, so fascism is found fertile ground there, whereas Ukrainians have had to deal with these different ethnic groups and find a way to negotiate so it isn't all just, a power structure where it's null sum. And finally, it's important to note that, and Russia knows exactly what happens when we, with an English ear, hear the word nationalism. We instantly go to nationalist socialists and the ugly history of nationalism within the West. It's very important to understand that when a Ukrainian calls himself a Ukrainian nationalist, he means, I believe there deserves to be a nation state called Ukraine, which has been denied them for centuries. That's what Ukrainian nationalism is about. It's not about fascism, but Russia will use that against the Ukrainians and worm it into your ear that nationalists are everywhere. Well, they are, but it's a nationalism more akin to Irish nationalism and a fight for an Irish state. That's why when you hear, yes, I'm a Ukrainian nationalist, you shouldn't be afraid and you shouldn't think, oh my God, are we supporting fascists? We're not. There's no fertile ground in Ukraine for fascism because there's so many different groups here, because empires have come through here and they've had to deal with one another. So there's no one power base or ethnic group that could dominate and force fascism as we're seeing it in Russia. So those are some talking points if you hear Russian disinformation.
100%. Ironically, there's the mosque. The big mosque is like right fucking
Synagogue.
the synagogue.
5 minutes
Yeah, so mosque is what the mosque is over there. Synagogue,
mosque's over there.
synagogue is behind me.
Synagogue's over there.
I'm not.
I
Yeah,
was just down in Kherson.
yeah.
The chief rabbi.
Chief rabbi is over there. I mean,
The chief
he
rabbi
drove the
is
Sherp, you guys, and went and crossed the river and went and helped people.
Zelensky made Eid al-Fitr,
Yeah.
which is part of Ramadan.
Yeah.
That's official within the Ukrainian armed forces. It's just, I get so frustrated.
I know. I feel you. Go ahead, Starsky.
And again, the local communities in that mosque and that synagogue, they organize, they gather the humanitarian aid and supplies for regiments like Azov, for example, which is mind-blowing because
because of the
because-
narratives.
because-
The
because-
chief rabbi endorsed Azov. I mean, so
Yeah.
Azov is a Nazi organization. I mean, it's bullshit. It's because Azov kicks Russian ass.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
yeah, absolutely. All kinds of ethnic groups here in Ukraine, they support Azov because they know that Azov will never harm them.
The only Nazis here are the Russians, honestly. All right, final statements. We'll go to Operator Starsky and then Phillip. Just anything that you want to say to the audience, and then we're going to go have breakfast and let America go to bed and let people watch this stream because it was so amazing. Such a great episode with Phillip and Operator Starsky. Final thoughts from Starsky.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I would like to address this very, very important question that was asked several times in the chat. So my plumbing is okay. Yesterday I completely nailed it. I finished everything. Unfortunately, unlike in the porn movies, I was not paid with sex because I was alone. So I will pass it to to Philip, I think.
All right, final thoughts from Phillip.
Thanks. I mean, look, there's so much to talk about because this is such a complex situation. But I want to make a couple of quick things. I've been a war correspondent for a very long time. I'm letting other people kind of fixate on and present to you information about the ongoing war. But I will make this one comment about what's happening with the counteroffensive. In American football terms, we need to consider what's happening with the offensive, and it's been described as by Ukrainian military guys as stop thinking of it as a counteroffensive, start thinking of it as a campaign, a war campaign. That's got many phases and many steps and is operating as a whole. And in America, as I say, in American football terms, it is a running game. It is not a passing game. It is getting a yard here, a yard there, passing the ball, or moving the ball down the field until you can get to the sea and break the land bridge. Don't look for spearheads. Don't look for maybe this short, sharp pass occasionally, but no long bombs, no sending your linebackers out for some crazy, showy thing of grabbing a lot of territory. It's rolling up Ukrainian ground so that you can make it to the sea. And check out my vlog, by the way.
Check out the Phillip
Shameless
Itner's vlog. And it's so true, you guys. I mean, keep in mind the Russians spent 10 months on Bakhmut, 5 kilometers north to south. And Ukraine right now is counteroffensive is in Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and part of Kharkiv as well, because they're still up in the northeast in Luhansk. They pushed up there. I haven't seen too many changes, but they're still up there all winter. They were up there skirmishes, getting villages back. It's not just one little area that Ukraine's conducting their counteroffensive. It is literally the whole front now at this point, and just be patient with it. Let the Ukrainian armed forces work. Trust in the armed forces of Ukraine. Let's get these air defense or get these air power here to Ukraine. Attack them, jets. We need mine clearing here because of the fields. It's more optics. We've talked about it. We're going to have more guests on this week that will shed light on that. Tomorrow, I believe we're going to have Dimitri from NAFO back on, and with Operator Starsky, and they're going to be bringing MREs and some shit for us to go through of the Russian bullshit, so you guys can see it for yourself. All right, leave a like on the stream. Make sure you subscribe to Operator Starsky. Go subscribe to Philip Itner. Subscribe to Alex Kanash. He's in the description. Just click his name. Go and subscribe to his channel, and of course, subscribe to Mercado Media for more Good Morning Kyiv streams, nightly Ukraine war news streams in which we go through all the news and I aggregate it and go through it, map update, combat videos. That's when we go through that type of stuff. But these conversations are so important too as well. Have a good afternoon, you guys. And one final message here that I'm going to play on our way out.